Right, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. My name's Kynan Jones. I'm a solution advisor with SAP Australia. My job this afternoon is to showcase to you SAP's latest business suite application, the Simplified Business Suite for HANA, or S for HANA as we call it. Today we're looking at why the simplified suite is required. So what are the business trends that have come about to bring this product to life? We're looking at what is this product, so what actually makes up S for HANA. And we're looking at, most importantly, what does that mean to you? What value does that bring to your organization? And finally, what steps can you take to begin that journey towards a simplified business suite? So we'll start with the business trends. So SAP has been around for the last 40 years, 40 plus years, and we've worked with our customers throughout these changes in the business market. Starting with back in the early 70s, we saw mainframe technology. So we saw businesses starting to automate their business processes using these mainframe applications, and the first of the SAP's iterations came about to help customers with that. So we looked at things like being able to store the information from business processes and actually automate manual process steps. The trouble with this was that the cost of storage was very expensive, so that was very restrictive to our customers. Then in 2002, around about, we saw the client-server technology age come about. And this is around about the time where organizations were really starting to expand globally. They were starting to take on more and more and really target more international markets and larger scales. We saw companies with client-server starting to look at not just automating processes, but really optimizing processes. Now, the problem with that was that we also had still quite an expensive cost of storage. So we saw additional systems being added. We saw things like aggregate tables being added to add up various versions of data so that when we came to reporting, we could actually get that information quickly. Then we saw around 2012, the cost of storage came right down, and we were able to bring about a change, a real disruption with the in-memory HANA database platform. And this was around about the time where we started to see what we call the networked economy. So being able to use full digitization, so full digital business models to really disrupt the marketplace. So companies like Amazon, for example, use this to really disrupt and innovate the publishing industry. We saw Apple come about with their iTunes and really disrupt and innovate the music industry, or music publishing industry. And it was using these, the technology with the in-memory database, we were able to bring about Business Suite on HANA. And then this year we announced the introduction of the Simplified Suite for HANA, or S for HANA. Now, what we also see is that most CEOs will agree that they are still fighting the battle against complexity. In a recent study, they found that at least 10% of annual profit is lost due to fighting complexity. Now, with the in terms of what we look at from SAP, the complexity comes from things like siloed information, using batch information. So not live data anymore. We're actually trying to store versions of the truth rather than actually having one single source. And this is because of the cost of storage and the way that systems have been built up over the last 40 years. So this is what we're trying to really fight against with SAP S for HANA, is to try and get back to the single source of truth, to really fight against and clear up that complexity for our customers. So the challenge was to really find a simple solution, a way that we could help our customers to run simple and perfect their business models, to really change the way that they interact with their applications, to really simplify that interaction from the top down to the bottom. And that's what we've come to find with S for HANA. This is our strategy, this is our vision, this is where we're going, and this is what we're doing with SAP S for HANA. Now, I mentioned SAP HANA before. This is a product that's been around now since 2011. We've got a number of customers already on that journey, a number of customers already live. It is a tried and true product. It has been tested. We started off with a standalone platform. Then we rolled that up to our business warehouse application, and then onto our business suite application, so Suite on HANA. Then last year we introduced SAP Simple Finance, a way of really simplifying the financial industry. And this year with S for HANA. Now, in terms of some customers, we have a local one. La Trobe University is a great example of what we can do with S/4HANA. So La Trobe set themselves the challenge of becoming a fully digital enterprise. They wanted to have one subscription fee across their product and a full cloud consumption model. So they signed the deal in the 30th of September, and they had a system ready to go to start blueprinting. They could log on in October 10th. That's 11 days. That's a very fast turnaround just to get onto the system. And they went live this past Easter. So great example of what we can do, the agility and the speed of having a fully hosted, fully cloud modeled S/4HANA application. And Deloitte, sorry, going back to La Trobe just quickly, I guess the real case in point here was that with the simplified finance model that they used, they were able to save their finance department 1 day per week just by using SAP's Simple Finance application and S/4HANA. Now, Deloitte, as another example here, they had 12 people working on their expense reports just to try and get through audit. Now, with the introduction of Simple Finance, they were able to cut their monthly claims down by 10% and their finance team down to one person with 100% audit capacity across their organization. So a great example of what we can do with a simplified suite. And of course, SAP. And this is SAP's finance story here as well. So we saw SAP now with Simple Finance. SAP is the fastest closing company on the German stock exchange, the DAX. So we can do this with Simple Finance. So we can actually cut down faster financial close. We have better visibility across our financial organization. That means less corrections, less errors, a smaller database footprint, and we'll get to the whys of that shortly. But needless to say that by being able to reduce that database size down from 7.1 to 1.8 terabytes, that's a big saving to their IT department as well. Now, I've mentioned Simple Finance and I've mentioned Suite for HANA. Simple Finance is the first step that you can take to your S/4HANA journey. Now, this is available now. We can get it up and running. We have the services to be able to get you on that journey immediately. This offers you the ability for real-time closing, to be able to look forward with better visibility because you're working with real operational data. We're not talking about siloed information. We're not talking about aggregates or total tables. We're not talking about being able to sum up data, to be able to run a report here, sum up some more, do more, and then finally close. We're talking about being able to work with live operational data, and we can do that right now with Simple Finance. So let's have a look at Simple Finance. Now, if I open up my Simple Finance application, what you're seeing is what we call the Launchpad. So this is a very simple way for users to see the roles and the applications that are assigned to them as a user. And we have, you can see on each tile, KPIs. So we're actually performing real-time analytics on operational data. This isn't from a BW system or a data warehouse. This is real data being summed up as we go through the application. So we'll start with looking at the state of finance. Now you can see straight away a very clear indication of what's happening on the profit and loss, what's happening with our cash flow, and what's happening with our working capital. Now these, I'm not sure if you actually picked this up, but if we go back into our state of finance application, you'll see the graphs are actually building as we go into the application. Now this is actually working off operational data, and I'll say that again, it's operational data, it's real-time operational data. This is not a data warehouse system, this is real data as we work through it. Now you'll see straight away that based on our profit and loss application here, we can see that the operating margin is down 13 basis points. So we can actually identify that and work off exceptions rather than having to go through every particular thing to try and find errors. We work off the exceptions. So we can see that highlighted in red. The KPI is already there. It's already indicating to us that there's an issue. So we can drill into that and we can see that operating margin is down, and we can follow that flow chart through to global customer operations and finally off to Latin America, where they're up 12%. So we can drill into that and we can see that the issue is actually within Brazil. So if we click on Brazil, We can then look at our My Spend application, which is another application within Simple Finance. And we can see that third-party costs are highlighted in red. It means there's a big issue there. What we can do is actually export that and send a message off to our colleagues via social media, internal social media, SAP Jam, to say there's an issue, please resolve it immediately. And while we've done that, now we can actually look at our profit and loss statement and we can see the actual items that are causing us issue here. Whilst it's a little hard to see, if we look down the list there, you can see that the travel expenses are quite high. So we can switch to line item view, and you can see here that we can actually look at the individual accounting documents. So we're not working off an aggregate level now, we're working off the individual accounting documents, operational data, again, real time. So go back to our dashboard. So we know there's an issue with our operating margin, so let's have a look at our cash position. So we can see now, if we look down the list towards the bottom here, that we have a number of invoices that have not been issued yet. So we've got some outstanding money there to be brought in. So let's go back and we'll try and action that. So we can look at our overdue accounts receivable. So there's 141 million euros in there. So if we drill into our application, we can see that there's a number here, 92 million outstanding over 90 days. So we can drill into that by customer. And we can see that Latin American cutting tools is our main offender. So we can open that up and process the receivables. Now we can see a number of our invoices here. We can see the details of that invoice. We can see down the right hand side the history for this customer. So what's actually happened. Now this gives us the opportunity now to call that customer. So we've called the customer and they've promised that they will pay that invoice. So we can put an update into the system to say that it's been processed and that's now been promised to pay. Now another way we can look at that is through another tool here. We can see our overdue balances, we can see the days in arrears. This is all analysing real-time data, so we can look at that again against that invoice and we can see the details for that. So again, I've said it once and I'll say it again. You can start to see the ability to analyze real-time information. Now, this gives us the ability to have great visibility across our financial organization. We don't have to rely on batch data. We don't have to rely on information that's a day or 2 days or a week old. We actually have the data right now at our fingertips, showing up on a nice mobile application, being able to interact with that on an exception basis. So we're not drilling into everything we have to at our disposal. We just go for the exceptions. So it actually frees up time to do everything else we need to do. Okay. So this is SAP Simple Finance, and you can see through the list all the other applications we have within that and the KPI-based tiles we have on the front screen. So a very clear picture straight away as to what's happening within our financial organization. Now, what is S4HANA? We have three main focus points here. First of all is the simplified data model. Now this is the technical side of things, so I won't harp on it, but it's important to understand that this is what really drives that simplification from the ground up. So what we've done is to be able to remove the totals tables, remove the aggregates, and work off one single source of the truth. So that's freed up the data model to really work without that redundancy and without that batch process. Because of this, we're able to work with new and simplified business models and business solutions. So the actual application that we're working on, because it's no longer reliant on batch process, we can actually create new ways of working with our existing applications because we're not relying on old data or external systems to give us an aggregated total. And finally, we have a simplified user experience. And this is where we come to a product we call SAP Fiori. Now, Fiori is a way of working with user experience. So simplifying the way that the users interact with our business applications by looking at a really simplified view, a role-based view, giving the user exactly what they need and nothing more. So these are the three key pillars of SAP Suite for HANA. So the simplified data model, the simplified and reinvented business applications, and the simplified user experience. Now, I'll just take you through a quick whiteboard here to show you what it is we're talking about when we look at S for HANA and Simplified Finance. Now, what we started with ERP was one application that had a series of modules. So starting with something like finance, controlling, HR, then we had the logistics module, transportation, and our sales and distribution, amongst others. So these were our core modules within the SAP ERP application. So next came along the introduction of what we called the business suite. So this was a set of new dimension products. So products such as customer relationship management, product lifecycle management, supply chain management, and supplier relationship management. So these applications, along with our core ERP, formed SAP Business Suite. Now the next innovation that came about was that of our in-memory database, SAP HANA. So by putting our business suite onto the HANA database, we were able to simplify aspects of the application. So really free up processing. We actually took processing away from the application, moved it down into the database to really speed up those applications. This was a fantastic innovation, and a lot of customers are using that today. Now, the next innovation we saw recently was the introduction of a new user experience layer that sits across the top of our applications, and that is called SAP Fiori. So this, as I mentioned earlier, is a nice, clean user interface, consumer-grade user experience. Okay, so this is what we're using across all of our business applications now, both cloud and on-premise. Now, with Simple Finance, what we see is another add-on to the business suite. And it works in three ways, and this is the three ways that I mentioned earlier. First of all, we remove all the aggregated tables from the database. So all those secondary indexes, all those total tables, we don't need them anymore. We work off one single line item level, so one single source of the truth. So we're starting off with the simplified data model. Now that drives innovation up into the application layer, and we're able to actually remove a lot of the processing and a lot of the code from the application layer because we no longer need it. We don't need to deal with those total tables. We don't need that complexity anymore. So we start to simplify the business application. So Simple Finance, we remove a lot of that excess code from the actual application layer. So we're simplifying the business application and the business processes. And finally, with SAP Fiori, we can bring about the clean application that you saw demoed just a second ago. So the Simple Finance application, we work through SAP Fiori, and that is the user experience for Simple Finance. So that's our third aspect. So we're simplifying on the data model, we're simplifying on the application, and we're simplifying with the user experience. Now, next cab off the rank will be simplified logistics, and that will work in the same sort of way. We'll start to reduce the application's code base and really simplify and create new business models for those applications. So, moving forward, we have SAP S for HANA. We saw now we have all running on the HANA application database. We have two flavors here. We have the on-premise edition, which is similar to SAP's Suite on HANA with Simple Finance loaded. The second option we have is a cloud edition, and there's two flavors of that, which we'll get to shortly. And of course, over the top of that, we have the Fiori user experience. This allows us to connect to new models, so looking at social media, looking at business networks. The Internet of Things is a new one that's come out over the last few years. We are now able to actually integrate naturally with that. We have the new SAP HANA Cloud platform with a great suite of Internet of Things adapters for that. We have the ability to integrate with big data and our business networks as well, such as Ariba, Concur, Fieldglass, and Hybris and SuccessFactors. Now, we mentioned Fiori, so I'll skip over this shortly, but Fiori is the consumer grade user experience for our simplified finance and our S/4HANA applications. So I guess one key point to look at here is the way that it's different from what you have, or what a lot of customers use now with the SAP graphical user interface. So you have one transaction that has been built up over the last 30 plus years or 40 plus years, where you have one application that is used by multiple roles within the organization. You might have within that transaction 10 tabs. Each tab has close to 100 fields. The user might only need to use 5 or 6 of those to get their job done. But because other users are using that application as well, there's all that added complexity. So with Fiori, what we're looking at is focusing on the one user, focusing on that one use case, and really providing that user a consumer grade experience to get from point A to the end at point B with the least amounts of clicks as possible. So we're really looking at focusing on our individual users. So I mentioned before looking at the data model. Now this is the technical aspect of it, so I don't want to spend too much time on this, but it's important to look at exactly what we're doing here. So with the existing data model, we have our 4 main tables, our BKPF and our BSEG line items, but we have all these other tables. So to create one entry, we had to update all these other tables because these are all the total tables or the aggregate tables. So we have multiple versions of the truth just to help speed up our reporting. So with Simple Finance, what we saw was the ability to actually cut down and remove all those tables, all those aggregates, and just focus on our line item levels. So we really have one source of the truth. So we're actually able to speed up our processes because we're no longer updating all those multiple entries. We're removing the risk of errors because we have one source of the truth. We're removing the need for batch processing because we're not summing up those totals. We're not looking at aggregates anymore. We're looking at live, real operational data. And this is one of the true benefits of SAP's S/4HANA and Simple Finance. Now, one of the key benefits we saw from an SAP point of view, one thing that we really saw was the fast financial close. So the month-end closing, traditionally you had to sum up various aspects and then you could process those. So you're really waiting on all those batch processes to finish and then you could proceed. With Simple Finance, we don't have to worry about waiting for that anymore. We can actually proceed real time through our month-end close. And you can really cut down on the time it takes to do that. As I mentioned, SAP is the fastest closing organization on the German stock exchange, on the DAX. Now I've mentioned S/4HANA and I mentioned before simple logistics. Now one area that we're looking at as an example of simplifying that logistics space is the MRP process. Now traditionally this is something that took at least an overnight process, if not 2 days to run. So you had to sum up all of these processes, gather all your information, all your stock levels, all your orders, and try and figure out your position based on all of this data that's already out of date by the time you use it. Now, by actually removing those aggregates, we're actually able to simplify that process based on real operational live data. So we're not looking at batch anymore, we're not looking at total tables, we're actually looking at real live data. And this is where we're sort of heading with simple logistics. So we've seen the trends in the market, we've seen what S/4HANA is, we've seen now how we're using it. We want to look at what that means to you as an organization. So what value does this drive for you as a customer? So first of all, because we're able to look at the new data model, we're actually able to create new business models. So new business applications based on that actual data model. We're able to take the business process, because we're not looking at the batch anymore, and create new processes. So actually take away all those lags that we had before and move in new directions that we never thought possible before, because we're not reliant on batch overnight processes. And we're actually able to look at new ways of making business decisions, because we're able to have analytics at our fingertips, like you saw with the iPad app for Simple Finance. You're actually able to see data real time at your fingertips wherever you are, whether it be out in the field, at home, or in the office. You have that information there on an exception basis. You're able to see exactly what's happening within your organization across all your aspects of the organization. We have the new user experience, so Fiori. So it's a way of really simplifying the way that the user gets their job done. So we're looking at here making an experience for the user that makes them feel not only that they have all the information required, but also enjoy using the application again. Not using an application that has so much complexity built up over 40 years of install-based requests. We're actually looking at a nice, clean application that customers enjoy using again. We're able to look at simplifying the configuration process of our applications. And again, our new data models. So I'll harp on about this again. Because we have now the in-memory database, we don't need the aggregates and the totals. We can actually work off one source of the truth of real live data. Now, in terms of deployment options, we start with the on-premise edition, which is our SAP Suite on HANA application with the Simple Finance module installed. This is based on a yearly innovation cycle, so once a year, new updates will be rolled out to our customers. Now, that's available now. The next edition we have will be our Public Cloud Edition and our Managed Cloud Edition. So the Public Cloud Edition and our Managed Cloud Edition will be on a quarterly innovation cycle. So that means that each quarter, updates will be rolled out to our customers, providing new functionality, and they'll be able to work with that. The Public Cloud is very much a simplified view of it, where the Managed Cloud has a bit more functionality involved. So this one I won't go into too much detail, but needless to say, we can see here that we have our Suite on HANA application, the same as the on-premise, but with our simplified modules installed. And as new ones become available, they're installed as well. The private and managed cloud applications are just those simplified applications. So at our core, S/4HANA is our simplified modules, so Simple Finance to begin with. Simple Logistics will be next cab off the rank, and after that, Simple Marketing, which is the Hybris marketing engine. So how do you start on that? As a new customer, you'd be looking to go straight onto S/4HANA. So Suite on HANA with Simple Finance as your starting point. The choice then is only how do you actually deploy that, whether you go full cloud, whether you go hosted through HEC, for example, or SAP HANA Enterprise Cloud, which is our managed cloud offering, or whether you go with one of our public cloud options as well, or on-premise, of course. Now, if you were an existing customer on a different database apart from HANA, you'd have to come up and do a database migration, then move across. If you were an existing SAP Suite on HANA organization, you would just then have to accept the Simple Finance module, and you would be an S/4HANA customer. Okay. Now, you don't need to worry about this because you don't have SAP Business Suite at the moment, but for existing customers that are not on HANA, they would have to move up to a certain level, move on to the HANA database, so a database migration, then install Simple Finance and move on. Now, any journey from SAP you won't take lightly, but we have the services to assist our customers. We have these adoption services, so they're not compulsory, but we offer them as a way of helping our customers to really look at the value that we can offer into our install base. So we'll look at your current systems and identify how you best proceed. We then help you with that process as you proceed down that migration and into the implementation phase. We also have what we call a quick value assessment. So this is probably the first place you would start. So what we do is actually get someone out there to look at your system and provide you with a report that looks at how your systems operate at the moment and what value you can get out of moving to Suite for HANA and Simple Finance. Now, being a Suite for HANA customer, you get automatic entry into the customer care program. And what that gives you is an SAP representative works with you every step of the way. So any issues that you might face, any questions, any concerns, you can talk to that person straight away. That person is your resource to use. You can then work with them throughout that process. They are there to hold your hand, to make sure that you feel comfortable at every step of the way. And that's a free of charge offer from SAP to our customers moving forward with S for HANA and Simple Finance. So that's it for me today. I hope you've had a good session. I hope you got something out of that. So you can actually see the need for a simple business application. So to remove that complexity in your SAP systems and your business systems, so remove the need for batch processing, to work off live real-time data, to have a simplified data model, to be able to create their new business processes because you're not waiting on lag of business applications and batch processing, and also that a simplified user experience, so a way of dealing with the SAP application in a new and beautiful manner. So my name is Kynan Jones. Thank you for your time today. Good evening.